Once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, y'all are now tuning in. We're talking about the 5 reasons why the housing market is set to stall but not crash. I'm talking about this because this became very popular. It was recently we read the report by the Census Bureau where they were talking about the housing market, how the new houses sales started to decline in June. So when we watch that data, everybody's like, oh my God, is this the end of the housing market? And ladies and gentlemen, on this episode, I'm going to go through financial data and I'm going to give you my 5 reasons, just my opinion only, of why I believe the housing market is set to stall but not crash. But if you're catching this live, y'all tune in and say thank you. And soon I'm saying thank you to you guys for tuning in live, but tell me where you're from. But if you haven't done so already, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and make sure hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, hit that like, comment, and share button. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, you are now tuned into the Investor Show. As always, this is your gracious host, the Prince of Investing, Prince Dykes, coming to you guys and girls live all the way from the beautiful city and state of Denver, Colorado. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, comment, and share button. And if you're not getting the notifications that I'm live, unsubscribe and resubscribe again. That's something I heard other YouTubers say. So I want you guys and girls to get into it as well. But let me see what y'all say in the comments before we get in there. We got Awesome Name on YouTube. Awesome Name, what's going on, my guy? He says, hey, Prince, man, Joe from Cincinnati, Ohio, checking in to see what's up. Okay, what's going on, Joe from Cincinnati? I don't think I ever been in Cincinnati, but I'm glad to see you here. Who else we got here? Lucky's mom, Duval County, is in the house. What's going on, Lucky's mom? Thank you for tuning in. Al, that's my guy, Al. What's going on, Al? He's out here in Colorado. And we got Hey Starks. Chicago is in the house. Okay, peace, Prince. Hey Starks, man. Peace to you as well. I think I remember Hey Starks. I think you won something. Is that? I think if I'm not mistaken. Let's sip and talk with Freeman's over there on Twitch. She says, Prince, how are you? I'm doing pretty good, man. Freeman, thank y'all for checking in. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the first thing we got to get into is the low interest rates and monetary policies. So you guys remember back in 2020 when the pandemic kicked off last year, 2020, at the top of 2020, a monetary policy is something that is controlled by the Federal Reserve. And what this means is this is a policy that the government can play with money, interest rates. They can increase or decrease the supply of money inside of the economy by controlling the interest rates. They control what the banks get. The banks control what everybody else gets. So what they did, they lowered interest rates. And when you lowered interest rates, when you lowered interest rates and interest rates at an all-time low, which I have pulled up right here, this is something that they use to push the economy in the upward trend. So right here, this is July 28th. The Federal Reserve, this is what they said off of their website. You can go to federalreserve.gov. Right here it says, released on July 28th at 2 p.m., the Federal Reserve is committed to using its full range of tools to support the U.S. economy in this challenging time, thereby promoting its maximum employment and price stability goals. Now, the Federal Reserve has already made it been known that they're not going to touch interest rates until they see unemployment numbers start to reflect. They want to see unemployment numbers start to drop. Of course, we had that inflation that's coming along and stuff like that. But the Federal Reserve said, hey, we're not going to touch interest rates until we see unemployment get back to where it is. They said in their own reading. You can read yourself on the federalreserve.gov. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at this is a monetary policy that is put in place. This is the number one reason. The interest rates, the government controls interest rates, and they can control the affordability of the housing market. What's going to happen? As unemployment numbers start to drop, I can see them raising the interest rates. And as they raise interest rates, more people are not going to be able to afford houses. I keep telling people my interest rate on my house is a 2.75. If my interest rates was a 5.0, I would not be able to afford my house. If the interest rates that I got, if they were the same 3 years ago, I would not be able to afford my house today. So by the Federal Reserve having low interest rates, it increased the affordability, which put more people, more customers. When you increase the affordability of something, you increase the demand. If supply stays the same and demand increases, the price goes up. This is what we're seeing in the housing market. But on the reverse end, as interest rates go up, you're going to see demand for houses go down. I don't see a crash, but this is what I believe is going to create a stall. It's going to be less people in the market to be able to buy. The second reason, number two, affordability. Prince, what do you mean about affordability? So when I talk about affordability, I'm going to pull up your employment cost index. Y'all give me 1 second here. I'm going to share the screen here. Where's my employment cost index? All right. So ladies and gentlemen, this is right what you're looking at. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, right? This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And this is going to tell you affordability, right? This is going to give you the, not affordability. This is going to tell you about the employment cost index. So right here, this is the latest report. I think this was released in April. Yeah, it was released on April 30th at 8:30 a.m. It says compensation costs for civilian workers increased by 0.9%. Seasonal adjusted for the 3-month period ending in March 2021. The U.S. Make sure I ain't got. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Y'all had a little double background music going on there. For the 3-month period ending in March 2021, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today wages and salaries increased by 1% and the benefit costs increased by 0.6% from December 2020. So when you look at this, you're talking about employment cost index, how much it costs for your civilian employment. It went up 1%. It went up 1%. So what you're having is inflation in the housing market. Is houses are slowly becoming less and less affordable because they're not keeping up with wages, ladies and gentlemen. Houses are slowly becoming unaffordable. You can look right here on the employment cost index on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, where it tells you, hey, the cost of employment is going up 1%, but you're looking at the real estate market is going up 5, 10, 15, 20% over time. What this means is that people are not making enough money to buy these houses. Yes, if you own a house, you have all of that equity and everybody's telling you how great you are, but you got to think about it. Who's going to be able to afford that $700,000 house, that $1 million house? Do you have the economy to support that? That's reason number two. But this is what's going to, as houses and prices keep going up and employment prices are not going up as high, you're going to see things become slowly unaffordable, creating a stall or what we like to call a plateau, right? Number three, we got government tools. Government tools. We kind of touched on this earlier when we read the Federal Reserve report, but I didn't pull it up on the Mortgage and Bankers Association. They do a great job. Shout out to them. They do a great job with tracking forbearances. So one of the government tools that they have in place, I think this is number 4, right? I'm on a number 4 reason. Okay. Yeah, I'm on number 3. I'm sorry. So number 3 reason is the government tools. One thing the government can do is it can stop you from being foreclosed on your house. Meaning, you can stop, for prime example, I have a VA loan being a veteran. So the government can come out when the housing market crashed. They say, you know what? You cannot foreclose on anybody if you have a government loan. I'm going to put them in forbearance. So guess what? This is why we didn't see the foreclosures shoot through the roof. This is why we don't have foreclosed houses, because the government has an array of tools that can control the interest rates, and also they can control who keeps a house or not. They say, hey, Prince, man, we know you got a 30-year mortgage. You can reorganize that 30-year mortgage. We can do XYZ. They'll work with you. Like I tell this story all the time. I went 2 months without paying my mortgage and nobody said anything. I called the mortgage company like, hey, why is this mortgage not coming out of my check? Oh, yeah, it was a technicality. And I'm like, well, you didn't think you was going to call me and tell me? But guess what? They can't call and tell you anything because they can't foreclose on you anyway. So that's another thing. The government has all type of tools, all type of monetary policies when you're playing with money. The physical policy is Congress when they pass laws and things like that. But you have physical policies and monetary policies, these government tools that the government are going to do things to keep the housing market from crashing. The reason how the housing market crashed is people start to get foreclosed on houses. That's what we saw back in 08. What we're going to get into, people can't afford the houses and people started to foreclose on houses. But now the government is stopping people from doing that. So that's reason number 3, these government tools that are out there, monetary and physical, that the government can use. Number 4, y'all ready for number 4? I'm gonna put my music back on, change up my music a little bit, my background music. PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Hopefully, did I spell it right? PTSD? Yes, PTSD. We always hear about military people having PTSD, which is true. Shout out to all my veterans. But also investors have PTSD as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at the PTSD history, why do you think everybody keeps talking about a housing market crash is about to fall on its face? The reason why you're seeing that is because investors lived through it. It happened in 2008. Investors were in their 20s and 30s, possibly 40s, and they remember that, and they're waiting for that to repeat itself again, right? You can't get it out of your head. But this is the thing about when you study and know what you're talking about and study your history, you look at when the last time we had a market crash before '08? When was the last time we had a real estate market, housing market crash since 2008? And you look back at it, and the last massive one that we had was the 30s and 40s. What happened in 1929? That was the stock market crash. So that stock market crash created foreclosures to go into the market in the 30s and 40s. So in the 30s and 40s, that was the last time we seen a market crash. Some people was born in the 40s. And guess what? From the 40s all the way to 2000s, it was like an unwritten rule that houses just keep going up. It just keep going up. Everybody, house market just goes up, 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 up. Because you think about it, if you was born in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, by the time the 80s roll around, you're 50 years old. You don't remember a housing market crash. Those days was the Great Depression days. Those days are gone now. We're in the American market. Buy your house and it goes up, goes up, goes up, which is going to lead me to reason number 5. But guess what? The reason why I'm bringing this up is the last time you saw a real market crash was in 1940. Y'all can correct me if y'all seen something sooner. But in 1940, all the way into 2008, you didn't see real estate. Real estate just goes up, 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 up. It may stall out, plateau a little bit, but it was kind of going up. You didn't see any housing market crashes. So it was unheard of. So if you'd have told those people back in the 80s, and if you'd have told most investors back in the 80s and 90s, housing market was going to crash, they thought you was crazy because they had never seen it in decades. Now, this generation of investors, we have seen a stock market crash. We've seen a pandemic. We've seen real estate market crash. So we have amnesia. We're waiting on it to happen the next time. Think about it, right? I was recently in a car accident. If you get into a car accident, every time you go through that intersection, every time you see a car, you jump, you flinch, right? You think, hey, it's going to happen again. Oh, it's going to happen again. Because you live through it. Investors now have PTSD. They're waiting on the next market crash. They're waiting on the next real estate crash, not knowing, hey, this happened every decade. It may happen. It can go 10, 20, 30, 40 years without happening. It doesn't have to happen every 3 years. So investors are anticipating. Everybody is peeking out that window, waiting on the next market crash of housing and not realizing, hey, what we had in '08 had happened in decades and decades and decades, right? So PTSD, that's the reason number 5 why investors are looking for something that is not going to be there. They're looking for a crash, and you're more likely going to see it slow down. Not going to be hot, but it's not going to be there. But this goes into number 5. Number 5, it builds off of number 4, the PTSD that we're experiencing today as investors. In the 80s and 90s, it was unheard of that the housing market was going to crash. Everybody made money in housing. You just bought a house, everybody made money. This is what led us into people, Wall Street being filled with mortgages. That was a perfect investment. Oh yeah, buy mortgages or whatever, collateralized debt obligations. It was all good. It was all gravy. Everything was fine. Wall Street was buying them up left and right because, hey, real estate doesn't go down. This what led to greed, to where you had mortgage companies. They was giving anybody a loan, selling it to Wall Street. Wall Street wasn't paying attention to who were the end users, and everything was fine until the end user, the person who was getting the loans, could not afford it. Now, this was a bunch of frauds that was happening. A bunch of people was getting mortgages that shouldn't have had mortgages. People was getting a $500,000 house working at McDonald's. We know that don't make sense, right? But the mortgage company didn't care. They was like, hey, do anything to it, allow the paperwork, and we're going to sell it to Wall Street anyway. Wall Street is not paying attention. They're looking at a 30-year mortgage that's going to pay them 18% on 8% or whatever. They don't care until one day you realize, like, whoa, this is fraudulent. The people on the end can't really afford these houses. So I haven't seen this happen today as of myself. Housing today are a little bit more strenuous. You know, you got to have a certain credit score. You got to print out your bank accounts. You have to print out your pension funds. You have to print out things to make sure you have the money, right? So I don't see that fraudulent activity that I know of and see that happened back in the 2000s that had been going on. So that's why I believe the housing market itself, I think the housing market is going to continue to go up. And I don't think it's going to go up as fast as it done in the past couple of years. I think it will slowly start to slow off because I think the market of affordability is not there. I don't think how many people are going to be able to afford these houses. And then also, I think interest rates are going to come back and start to go up, and going to make, as interest rates go up, houses are going to become harder to buy. And as inflation goes up, people dollar is going to mean less, meaning they're going to have less money to be able to buy the house. So that's my 5 reasons. Lower interest rates started this whole thing, monetary policy. We went down affordability. We talked about from the affordability from the employee cost index. Then we talked about the government tools, monetary and physical policies, then the PTSD and the 2008 fraud. So I think the housing market we have all these things in place to prevent a crash or to slow down a crash. But I think we're going to see a stall. Okay. That's my take. Let me see what y'all say in the comments before I roll out of here. Hey Sharks, he says true. 401k book. Thank you. Oh yeah, definitely. Hey Sharks, shout out to you and your son, man. I got that email that really touched me, man. Seeing you say that, you and your son tuning into the show and stuff like that, and that really motivates me, keep me going. So I definitely want to give a big shout out to you and your son. And yeah, you got your book. I'm glad you got your book, man. I'm glad you got the book. What I mean, trying to make sure I hit where is it? There we go. Shout out to you, Hey Sharks. Shout out to you, man. Shout out for you for tuning in. I forgot where you say you was from, but I remember sending you that book. I'm glad you got your autographed copy of Ted Bennett, the 401k legend. And I'm glad thank you for tuning in and holding me down. Jay Starks, I think his name is. But yeah, appreciate it. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be my time. I thank y'all for tuning in. I'm going to be dropping my cartoon a little bit, probably to later tonight or tomorrow or something like that. But anyway, y'all enjoy it. Into the next video, podcast, cartoon, book, whatever you might see me do across the globe. Y'all know my name is Prince Dykes. I'm the Prince of Investing. And to the next video, podcast, cartoon, or whatever else crazy y'all see me do around the globe. Peace, be safe. I'm out. Thank you.